She just coughed and wet her pants. Sounds extreme? It's not. It's happening to millions of elderly women, silently, shamefully, and far too often. And no, it's not just old age. That's a lie we've been sold. The real cause? 6 everyday habits that most women over 60 think are harmless, but are secretly weakening the bladder day after day. If you've ever felt a sudden leak when laughing, sneezing, or rushing to the bathroom, you need to see this. Because once you know the truth, you can finally take back control, dignity, and peace of mind. Let's break the silence, starting now. It may sound like a sign of discipline or control, but holding in urine too often is one of the sneakiest habits hurting elderly women's bladders. Many women in old age avoid public restrooms, thinking, "I'll wait until I'm home." But that simple delay can create a silent war inside the body. The bladder is a muscle, and just like any other, it can weaken or lose flexibility when overstrained. When it's forced to hold more than it should, it stretches and, over time, loses its ability to bounce back. The result? Sudden leaks when laughing, sneezing, or simply standing up too fast. Imagine someone who used to walk 5 blocks a day but then stopped. In a few months, even 2 blocks become a struggle. The same happens with the bladder. When it's used properly, it stays strong. But when we ignore the body's signals repeatedly, we teach it to behave unpredictably. Senior health isn't just about diet and movement. It's about listening to the whispers of your body before they become screams. And for elderly women, that whisper often comes as the urge to pee. Let's be honest, no one loves using public bathrooms. They're not always clean, and the experience can be stressful. But let's weigh the cost. Holding it in regularly may give a feeling of control today, but over time, it leads to more accidents, not fewer. One practical trick? Plan your outings around safe bathroom spots. Malls, pharmacies, large grocery stores all usually have accessible restrooms. Knowing where to go removes anxiety and helps maintain bladder health and dignity in old age. Some elderly women tell themselves, "I've been doing this for years and nothing's happened." But bladder damage isn't instant. It builds slowly, then strikes suddenly. It's not about scaring anyone. It's about awareness. Prevention in old age is the easiest path to longevity and confidence. You don't have to give up your independence to protect your bladder. You just have to shift your habits from reaction to intention. You're still in charge, just in a smarter way. Another tip? Keep a journal for 1 week. Every time you feel the need to go, jot down what time it was and whether you waited or went right away. After a few days, you'll start seeing patterns. You may notice you're waiting much longer than necessary, or maybe not drinking enough water to avoid the urge altogether. This kind of personal insight gives you power. It's not about fear, it's about freedom. Real control isn't about holding it in. It's about honoring your body's natural rhythms. And just like the bladder responds to being ignored, it also responds to being supported. When you start respecting the signals, the body starts cooperating again. That's the beautiful thing about senior health. It's never too late to change direction. Now, while holding it in may seem harmless, there's another habit just as damaging, but far more overlooked. And it begins with a simple cough. A cough here, a cough there. What harm could it possibly do? That's what many elderly women think when they feel that tickle in the throat that just won't go away. But behind what seems like a harmless, lingering cough could be a deeper problem quietly damaging the pelvic floor. When you cough repeatedly over time, you're not just clearing your throat. You're placing constant pressure on your abdominal area and directly on your bladder. The muscles responsible for holding urine take a hit over and over again until one day, they just don't hold like they used to. Think of your pelvic floor like a hammock. Every cough is a tug, pulling and shaking that hammock more and more. With age, this support structure naturally weakens, but add in a chronic cough, and that decline speeds up. For elderly women, this becomes even more dangerous when combined with other bladder stressing habits. It's not about panic, it's about noticing the signals. A persistent cough lasting more than 3 weeks isn't just normal for the weather. It's your body trying to start a conversation. And in old age, we can't afford to ignore those messages. Many women have a habit of brushing it off. It's just allergies, or I've always had a cough. But what if that little tickle is masking acid reflux, asthma, or even a side effect from medication? Certain heart pills, for example, are known to cause dry coughs. And here's the twist. If that cough is weakening your bladder control, it's not just about the lungs anymore. It's a senior health issue that demands a complete look. You're not just coughing. You're putting your longevity on the line with every wheeze. If you're noticing small leaks when you laugh, sneeze, or cough, that's not a coincidence. That's the pelvic floor waving a white flag. One simple way to ease the strain? Practice controlled coughing. Instead of letting it out forcefully, try to lean forward slightly, support your abdomen with your hand, and exhale gently. It sounds odd, but this small change can reduce the direct force on your bladder muscles. Think of it as coughing with wisdom, using age not as a weakness, but as a source of strategy. And don't forget to check your environment. Dry air, dust, perfumes, or even certain foods can trigger cough reflexes. Using a humidifier, avoiding scented sprays, or limiting spicy foods can help soothe your throat and reduce coughing episodes. Elderly women often see these as small irritations, but over time, they become part of a much larger picture, one where incontinence slowly creeps in under the disguise of something not serious. But you're wiser than that. You're watching now. Because here's the truth. Every cough is a push, and every push tells your bladder it's under siege. But just like you can control your response to a cold breeze, you can adjust your habits to protect your pelvic health. And if coughing is weakening the muscles, there's one powerful way to bring strength back to that area. It doesn't involve medicine, equipment, or money. And most elderly women don't even know it exists. If there's one group of muscles that elderly women rarely think about, but should, it's the pelvic floor. These hidden heroes support the bladder, uterus, and bowels. And when they get weak, everything starts to shift. A small leak when standing up. A sudden urge when unlocking the front door. Sound familiar? That's often the result of a foundation that's lost its strength. The sad truth? Most women never even heard of pelvic floor exercises until they already had symptoms. But strengthening these muscles after 60 is not only possible, it's powerful. Imagine trying to carry groceries in a bag with a hole at the bottom. That's what a weak pelvic floor feels like to your organs. Things don't stay in place. Control becomes shaky, and dignity starts to feel out of reach. But here's the good news. Just like we train arms and legs, we can train this part of the body too. The most popular method? Kegel exercises. They're discreet, can be done anywhere, and don't require fancy equipment. The best part? They work. So how do you do a Kegel? First, find the right muscle. Try stopping your urine midstream. Those are the pelvic muscles. Once you know how it feels, squeeze and hold them for 5 seconds, then relax for 5. Do this 10 times in a row, 3 times a day. That's it. You can do them while brushing your teeth, watching TV, or even waiting for the kettle to boil. And the best part is no one will even notice you're doing them. This tiny habit can mean a big shift in senior health and bladder control. Still skeptical? Let's look at a real story. Marlene, 72, started doing Kegels during her morning prayers. 3 sets a day, quietly, consistently. After 2 months, the accidents she'd accepted as part of old age had practically stopped. She didn't need pads anymore. She could go on walks again without fear. She felt young in a way that had nothing to do with wrinkles. That's the kind of longevity we're talking about. Not just living longer, but living better. Of course, it's not just about Kegels. Walking regularly, doing gentle yoga, and even using resistance balls can enhance pelvic strength. The key is consistency. It's like watering a plant. Do it daily, and you'll see life return. But ignore it, and things wilt. Elderly women have incredible power to transform their health if they're given the right tools. And sometimes, The most powerful tools are the ones you can't even see. So if you've ever said, "That's just what happens at my age," it's time to challenge that belief. Old age doesn't mean surrender. It means strategy. Your body's asking for attention, and it's giving you time to respond. Because while a weak pelvic floor causes problems, there's another sneaky habit that makes things worse. It hides inside your favorite cup, and it's something most elderly women consume every single day. Coffee in the morning, tea in the afternoon. For many elderly women, these drinks are little rituals that bring warmth, comfort, and familiarity. But here's the secret most don't know. What soothes the soul might be stressing the bladder. Both coffee and tea are natural diuretics. That means they stimulate your body to get rid of water fast. It sounds harmless, but in old age, that quick trip to the bathroom can turn into a sprint, or worse, an accident before you even get there. Senior health is full of small details that matter, and this is one of them. The caffeine in these drinks doesn't just make you alert, it also irritates the lining of the bladder. For women already facing age-related muscle weakening, this irritation can trigger urgency and leaks with little warning. One moment you feel fine, the next, you're rushing to the restroom. And that "just one more cup" mentality only adds fuel to the fire. Elderly women often see these symptoms as unrelated, but the connection is strong and backed by science. What you drink affects what you leak. Here's an example. Helen, 76, used to sip black tea throughout the day. She loved the taste, the warmth, the habit. But she also noticed she couldn't go more than an hour without visiting the bathroom. After switching to herbal teas like chamomile or rooibos, the urgency began to fade. Within 2 weeks, her nights were more restful, and her mornings weren't defined by racing to the toilet. Sometimes, longevity is hidden in small changes that create big relief. Of course, quitting caffeine cold turkey isn't always the answer. The goal isn't to remove joy, it's to bring balance. Try cutting back slowly. Replace the second cup of coffee with warm water and lemon. Or alternate between black tea and a low-caffeine herbal blend. Keep track of how your body responds. When you become a student of your own patterns, you gain control that no doctor can hand you. That's the real art of aging wisely. Observation before reaction. And hydration still matters. Some elderly women avoid coffee and tea but forget to drink anything else. That's trading one issue for another. The bladder works best when it's regularly flushed with clean water. Try carrying a small thermos of warm water with mint, ginger, or even a splash of fruit. It feels just as comforting, but without the hidden bladder sabotage. You deserve your comfort, but you also deserve your confidence. And those two can coexist. Because while coffee and tea might seem innocent, they're often the unspoken culprits behind daily urgency and leaks. But once you see the link, you have the power to shift. And speaking of hydration, there's a deeper problem brewing in old age. It starts with fear, and it leads many elderly women to make a quiet, dangerous mistake. One of the biggest misunderstandings among elderly women is the belief that drinking less water will prevent bladder leaks. It seems logical at first, less in, less out. But in truth, this habit quietly damages the bladder from the inside out. When the body doesn't get enough hydration, the urine becomes darker, more acidic, and more concentrated. And guess what? That irritates the bladder lining even more, making leaks more likely, not less. What starts as a plan to prevent embarrassment ends up backfiring with more urgency and less control. Imagine a sponge that hasn't been wet in days. It becomes stiff, dry, and cracks easily. That's what your bladder goes through when it's chronically underhydrated. The muscles don't stretch or contract well. The signals between brain and body get fuzzy. Senior health thrives on balance, and hydration is a central part of that. Water helps every organ function, especially in old age when natural fluid reserves decrease. Avoiding it is like skipping oil changes on an old car. It'll run, but not for long. Now, Some elderly women avoid drinking in the evening to prevent nighttime accidents. That makes sense if done carefully, but the mistake is cutting fluids all day. A better method? Stay hydrated in the morning and early afternoon. After dinner, taper down. That way, the body has time to flush out excess liquid before bedtime, and your bladder isn't going into overtime at 3 a.m. It's not about all or nothing. It's about timing and strategy. Longevity is built on smart, small shifts. Practical tip? Start your day with a full glass of water. Then, set little reminders every 2 hours, just a few sips each time. Carry a small bottle with slices of cucumber, lemon, or mint if you need flavor. This isn't about flooding your system. It's about steady support. Many elderly women report fewer leaks after improving their hydration habits, not more. Why? Because their bladders stopped feeling attacked and started cooperating again. And that changes everything. Let's not forget the emotional toll. Some women are so afraid of leaking in public that they end up socially isolated, declining invitations and avoiding joyful experiences. But all of that fear is built on a myth. Drinking less doesn't equal leaking less. In fact, it often makes things worse. You don't have to choose between enjoying life and managing your bladder. With the right approach, you can have both. Because confidence comes not from avoidance, but from preparation. And here's where the deeper danger lies. When elderly women start ignoring these signs altogether. A small leak here, a wet spot there, brushed off with a laugh and a shrug. But what if that's not just part of aging? What if it's your body's first warning shot? I just laughed too hard. I sneezed too suddenly. It's nothing. These are the common phrases elderly women use when a small leak happens. But those little drips, those tiny accidents, they're not random. They're messages. Ignoring them doesn't make them go away. It just gives them permission to grow louder. Think of them like the check engine light on a car. It doesn't mean the car is dead, but it does mean something needs attention before it becomes serious. In old age, small leaks are often the first visible sign that the bladder is under stress. Maybe the pelvic muscles are weakening. Maybe the nerve signals are delayed. Maybe an underlying medical issue is brewing. Senior health is not about fearing every symptom. It's about honoring them. Listening. Acting early. When you ignore leaks, you're not avoiding the problem. You're inviting it to stay and to get bolder with time. Many elderly women normalize incontinence, thinking it's just what happens with aging. But here's a powerful truth. Bladder control issues are common, but not normal. They're treatable. And when caught early, the solutions are often simple. Hydration, pelvic floor exercises, small lifestyle tweaks. But when ignored, these leaks can snowball into chronic conditions, dependence on pads, or even infections. Longevity isn't about perfection. It's about proactive care. One of the most effective first steps? Keep a bladder diary for 3 to 5 days. Write down what you drink, when you go, and any leak episodes. You may spot a pattern: caffeine spikes, poor timing, long gaps between bathroom visits. These insights can be shared with a doctor or pelvic floor therapist, turning vague embarrassment into actionable strategy. Knowledge replaces fear, and action replaces regret. You wouldn't ignore a slow leak in your roof just because it's not flooding the house. You'd patch it before the damage spreads. The same logic applies here. Taking charge of small leaks now could mean staying independent longer, traveling with confidence, and sleeping peacefully. And yes, maybe even dancing again without worry. It's not about age, it's about awareness. Your future isn't leaking, it's waiting for your attention. Because once you stop ignoring the problem, a world of solutions opens up. And when you understand that even the smallest leak is a call for care, you start reclaiming control. Now, all of this insight leads to one big question, the kind that makes elderly women pause and think deeply about their habits, their health, and their power to change. So now that you know the truth, which one of these habits has been quietly sabotaging your bladder all this time? Have you been holding in urine, skipping pelvic exercises, or sipping one too many cups of tea without a second thought? More importantly, what are you going to do about it? You see, aging doesn't mean losing control. It means gaining awareness. And the moment you stop treating leaks as normal and start seeing them as signals, you take back your power. So here's the question. Do you want to keep living in fear of that next accident, or do you want to walk out the door with confidence? Your bladder doesn't need luck. It needs attention, action, care. And now you've got the knowledge to give it just that. But don't keep this to yourself. How many other women do you know who are silently going through the same thing? Leave a comment below and tell me, what part of this video surprised you the most? I read every response. And if you want more real talk like this, no fluff, no shame, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss a tip that could change your life. Because your age isn't your problem. Ignoring it is. Let's age smart, together.